As predicted, an intense area of warm air has been building in the east, leading to widespread above average temperatures. This is just adding fuel to the fire as a big storm system is diving in from the northwest with a bunch of cold air in it. And the latest forecast models suggest that this storm is just going to keep getting stronger as it slams into the warmth in the east. This will ultimately affect everybody's weather in the form of rain, snow, wind, and maybe even significant severe weather. But how will it affect you? Well, you're already feeling the spirit of this storm in the northern plains through the northeast. Temperatures are soaring to very unseasonable levels for November. On Friday, most of the Great Lakes region will see temperatures close to 20 degrees above average, with places like Chicago nearing the mid-70s. And of course, much of the northeast will be warmer than average through this time period as well. On the contrary, in the west, we're going to see a wet and cool kickstart to November, as our big storm is digging a trough full of cold air deep down into the southwestern U.S. Lots of rain, wind, and snow can be expected from the Pacific Northwest all the way down into the Four Corners regions, as this storm just dumps a bunch of much-needed moisture. Despite the welcomed snowpack and rainfall in the west, the closer this storm gets to the central U.S., the less of a good outcome that we're going to see from this. As the big dip in the jet stream gets closer to Texas, it tries to tilt a little bit, allowing for more warm air to be pulled out of the Gulf of Mexico. This collision of warm and cool air will spark several rounds of thunderstorms, and many of them are going to be on the strong side. This has actually prompted the Storm Prediction Center to issue a slight risk of severe weather tomorrow and Friday. Tomorrow's risk extends from the panhandle of Texas up through Oklahoma, Kansas, and a little bit of Nebraska. This is mainly a wind-driven event, but there is a 5% probability of tornadoes here in the Brown. Now on Friday, the risk area shifts farther to the east, and it's going to encompass Dallas, Oklahoma City, all the way down into the Houston area. This will very likely be the most active day, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see elevated tornado chances here as well. Now, of course, severe weather is the main event here, and we're going to go in depth on that right here in a second, but there's going to be a lot more than just thunderstorms accompanying this storm as it goes off to the east. Millions of people from the Great Plains up through Canada will feel the wrath of this storm in various ways. And as you can see, outside of the thunderstorm formation in the south, lots of rain will be coming out of the system all the way up into portions of Ontario and Quebec. Additionally, on the cold side, we've got snow possible from Kansas up through Minnesota. But there's also some chance of some stronger storms in the deep south on Saturday. Watch how all this moisture sweeps through the area but weakens as time goes on. Hopefully this continues to be the case because there's a lot of warm air down here and a lot of thunderstorm fuel, so any sort of convection that we do get down there is going to be a problem. But thankfully, the farther east this cold front progresses, the less potent it becomes. However, very strong winds will be felt around the central low pressure as it ejects off to the northeast. Expect 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts from northern Arkansas all the way through Michigan on Saturday. Here's a look at how much rain everybody could see. A general 1 to 3 inches is expected across much of the Midwest, especially to the north of the main storm area where that cold front kind of stalls out for a little while. And here's a look at the potential snow through Saturday. Obviously, we've got a bunch of snow out here in the Rockies, but look at that swath of an inch or two from Kansas into Iowa. Get ready for that, folks. But in all seriousness, the main thing that we've got to be getting ready for is this severe weather in the south on Thursday and Friday. Let's go through it step by step so we know exactly what to expect. Here's what the radar could look like on Thursday. As you can see, the models are having a hard time convecting storms in the risk area until later in the evening. In fact, it might be 10 p.m. or later before anything substantial starts popping off. This means two things. First of all, it means that the storms are probably going to be weaker than what they could have been if they would have fired off earlier in the day. And second, despite this, they're still going to be strong enough to spark isolated tornadoes. Therefore, we have a real nocturnal threat for tornadoes Thursday night into early Friday morning. Watch how these winds just above the surface increase as we get later into the overnight periods. If these storms interact with these winds, a lot of wind shear will be present, so tornadoes could thrive in this environment. Now, watch how those winds stay elevated through the day on Friday and really start to ramp up Friday evening. This is where some models are just going off the charts with the tornado parameters. We have moisture in place, we have instability, we have lift. It's pretty much undeniable at this point that we're going to see some sort of significant event on Friday. But whether or not we see a bunch of tornadoes drastically depends on the type of storms we see. Watch how this model shows the rapid expansion of cool, dry air displacing warm air Friday evening. This indicates that we're likely going to be looking at a crashing cold front. In this scenario, the front progresses so quickly that all the storm ingredients or nadir juice get used up and distributed too widely to cause any sort of tornado outbreak. And instead, we get a big widespread wind event with a big squall line. This looks like the most likely scenario right now. But if we see prefrontal supercells during this period, several tornadoes, maybe even some strong ones, will be possible from south central central Texas up through the Red River Valley. No matter if we get tornadoes or not, everybody in these risk areas should be paying attention to the weather because we're definitely going to have wind, maybe even hail and flooding. Remember, it's important to not be scared, but rather be prepared, and just make sure you and your family know what you're going to do if and when that tornado warning comes through. And speaking of being prepared, I might be able to help a little bit with that with today's sponsor, which is myself. ShopRyanHall.com, the world's best weather preparedness superstore. Guess what? We have NOAA weather radios back in stock, including the highly sought after Midland WR400, which is an automated 24/7 weather radio that broadcasts all weather hazard information from your local National Weather Service. This thing's awesome, and it's going to wake you up if there's a tornado warning in the middle of the night, and you don't have to worry about anything because there's an emergency power backup in it with batteries. This thing is also programmable, so you can tell it exactly the way you want to be alerted. We also have mystery preparedness bundles back in stock, which is going to get you a WR120, a really good weather radio, and a randomly selected signature Ryan Hall Y'all merch t-shirt. All this at an incredibly discounted price. And of course, the Y'all-O-Meter 2.0 is officially shipping, so snag one of those before blizzard season. And if you've got time, just browse the site a little bit. And every purchase made on ShopRyanHall.com goes towards helping us do what we do, expand the team, make more content, help people directly impacted by severe weather with getting supplies to them or donating to charities. You know, whatever it is that we can do, we're able to do more of it as long as you guys are supporting us on this website. So thank you guys so much for the support. I hope you enjoy what we've got over there. Go get you something awesome today by clicking that link in the description, and let's get back into the video. Once again, I'm not convinced the severe weather threat is going to be over after Friday. I think there's a good chance for some strong storms in the Arkansas, Mississippi area on Saturday, but the overall threat will be lower than what we have on Friday in Texas. Beyond that, the trailing cold front will slam into some onshore flow from an Atlantic high pressure system on Saturday, putting a halt to the eastward progression of the cold air and storms. That's right, it's very unlikely that this cold front makes it past the Appalachian Mountains. In fact, warm air will continue to build in the east after this storm goes through. But Ryan, I thought you said we was going to see a pattern flip. We will, young grasshoppers. But like I said in the previous video, this is going to be a long, drawn-out war between warm and cold air that won't be over after one storm. Pretty much all through mid-November, we're going to see this pattern play out, and we're going to see multiple storms form on the collision zone. And the longer this takes, the more tropical moisture we're going to have compiled in the east. I mean, just look at all the activity out here. There's actually maybe a new tropical storm forming north of the Caribbean right now. When this pattern flip does happen and we go back to cold in the east, it's going to be very active, and we are going to see some interaction with all of this tropical moisture. And this is actually very common for November. It's just some Novembers are a little bit different or more intense than others, and I just think this one could present a pretty big snowstorm or maybe another severe weather event before we flip into that kind of stable winter pattern. And if you want updates on that as we go forward, here's your reminder to like this video and slap the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn notifications on. All that stuff helps me out way more than you know. We're almost to 800,000 subscribers. In the meantime, the whole story here is easily laid out by the latest CPC outlook, the Climate Prediction Center. The next 6 to 10 days look very warm across the East Coast and cold towards the west. However, as we look at the 8 to 14 day outlooks, you can see a trend a little bit to the east, and you can also see where the precipitation is going to be most ample. I think this trend is going to continue to the east as we go into the third week of November, and that's when we're really going to see that cold air lock into the east. But I could be wrong. I am a weather guy after all, okay? We're known for being wrong. Just another reason to stay tuned and make fun of me in the comments if I am wrong, okay? So how does the joke go? You know, it's like the only job you can have where you're wrong 50% of the time and like it doesn't matter. All right, super huge shout out to all of our members over here. Thank you guys for being a part of the channel. Guys, I could go live Friday, maybe even Thursday, I don't know. But if the Storm Prediction Center puts out a 10% or a 10% hatched risk for tornadoes, I'm gonna be live with storm chasers on the ground, meteorologist Andy Hill. We're all gonna be here walking you through this one. Hopefully we won't have to go live, but if it is necessary, we will be here for you. So subscribe, turn notifications on, and don't miss that one. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Woo, 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 woo.